Hello and welcome to another episode of On Fire here on Daily Mirror. I'm Easwaran Rutnam. The tourism industry was one of the biggest foreign exchange earners in Sri Lanka. However, since the Easter Sunday attacks in 2019, and of course COVID and the political crisis, the protests, we saw a drop in tourism in Sri Lanka. Joining me on the program today is a veteran in the tourism industry, Mr. Hiran Cooray. Mr. Cooray, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Isam. Thank you.
So, Mr. Cooray, we know how bad the situation is in Sri Lanka, but I would like to get it out from you in your own words. How serious is the industry?
Well, we went through probably the worst ever time that we went through after COVID, right? Because even after the Easter Sunday attacks, there was a lot of international support for us to get out of the crisis sooner than we expected. A lot of the analysts said it will take probably 1 to 2 years for us to recover. But because of the international support we got, within 6 months, we were back on track. And so we had very good months of December, January, February of 2020, December 2019 and January 2020 and February. Then, of course, COVID came out with all the international borders closed. That probably was the worst ever time that tourism in not only Sri Lanka, globally faced. So therefore, our incomes literally went to zero. So then we survived because the government gave us a moratorium. We did not have to service the loans and everything. And many purely had to pull out from their savings or whatever and keep the plant operational. Then when we were just recovering from COVID comes this, which I'm very sad that we came to this position, because none of us, not only in tourism, in other sectors as well, maybe garments, maybe other industries, professionals, the doctors, the engineers, what have you, never spoke of this crisis. Maybe some of you in the media, the professional journalists alerted the public, but even that was not taken seriously. So we like a little crab in a boiling pot was swimming and enjoying.
But you knew there was a crisis. You knew that you were going to get bad.
But nobody really
spoke
up. So suddenly it hit us. It hit us because the ordinary people, the women, the children, ordinary citizens of this country came onto the streets, right, saying enough is enough. So then only we all got once again some life back in. But tourism industry has suffered. And the burning of buildings, houses, what have you, because the international, in somebody looking at it, won't realize this is a targeted building that is being burned. They think that this is happening,
and that is something that even the authorities then kept saying, that this is not the entire country.
Yes.
Tourism is not going to be affected.
Correct.
Just isolated incidents.
Yeah. But no, when it goes in the international media, it's Sri Lanka is burning. Sri Lanka has no government, no proper government. So this is what went out into the world, and then the most of the embassies in Colombo slapped travel advisory, and again tourism has literally come to nothing. So at the moment we are back again. Trying to bring us out of the mess once again. We always think this is the last time we are in a mess. Like we, after the Easter Sunday bombings, okay, what worse can happen, and more worse things happen. After COVID, we thought, okay, finally we are out of COVID, we are getting out of it, and now this happened. So this is our life. We can't give up tourism. Tourism is an industry that will contribute a lot to our country, to get us out of the balance of payments issues that we are facing at the moment. We need tourism, and we have to be committed to move this industry forward.
Have successive governments really supported in the industry the way they should? I mean, there were concerns even in 2019 after the Easter Sunday attacks. You spoke about moratorium.
Yes.
But I know small hotel operators were saying that they were not getting the same support from the authorities back then. Even during COVID, there was this allegation. Even now, some people say the same thing as well. I mean, do you think successive governments are focusing enough on the industry, which was at least the biggest forex earner for Sri Lanka?
Well, tourism is a low-hanging fruit. It can take off very easily and it can be wiped out also very easily, right? And some governments take tourism very seriously, some don't. At the moment, it's a headache for them. This industry now has become a headache. Because there's so much of investment, so many people dependent on it, right? Close to 2.5 million people depend on tourism. But now so they want to just ignore it. So there is also another point, because I have also heard some people saying, we haven't got anything, we haven't received anything. There is a formal sector and the informal sector, right? So what I'd like to see is those who are in the informal sector come into the formal sector. That means if you have a house which you are renting to tourists, establish yourself. Right. Come and register yourself with the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, local Pradeshiya Sabha. So then you're part of the establishment, right? But you benefit from tourism, but you don't pay your dues, right? And then when something happens, you come in and say, we didn't get anything, right? But if those who are in the established sector haven't got anything, then they need to come out and speak to the authorities and see what has happened. Maybe the associations, because from what I know, most of the association members have received the moratoriums, all of that. We can't also, it's not fair for us to ask for handouts, right? Because we have been in business, we have made money in the past through this sector. So therefore, now we can't say, now can you give us some cash? But
the government has also made a lot of money out of this.
Yeah, right? That's right. They have. Yes, some of the money has been used properly, some not properly. But that's again our fault for not checking on public accounts. We just take things for granted. Up to now, most people in this country have just taken things for granted. So hopefully in the future, governments will be more accountable how they spend the money that they, not only from tourism, other sectors as well, as to how this continues.
I mean, there were also concerns about the SLTA that, they were favoring certain hotels, certain people, and that they were not looking at the industry as a whole. Did you notice that? Did you say that?
Unfortunately, yes. I noticed that, which should not have happened. We had a time after during COVID crisis and so on, the industry should have been brought together. That's how we got out of situations in the past. We had the airport bombings in 2001. We had the central bank bombing in 1996, I think. And then we had the tsunami in 2004. When that happened, the travel associations, the hotels association, the inbound travel agents, the outbound travel agents, everybody was sitting in the tourist board, right? And discussing what do we do, how do we get out of this situation, appealing, but that unity sadly didn't happen. So I sincerely hope that won't happen in the future, because tourism is an industry that is bound to face difficulties. If somebody starts sneezing in Europe, we get pneumonia. So therefore, we have to work together. The public and the private sector has to work together. There is no choice about that. There is no question. But there will be always difficulties, because the private sector will demand something, the government will have a different objective. But be that as it may, people have to come together and sort out those differences and work. So that happened, and hopefully, I hope it won't happen in the future.
You were also part of the Sri Lanka Tourism Advisory Committee.
Yes.
I mean, what were you all working on at that time? I mean, were you looking at...
Well, the main focus at that time during Minister Prasanna Ranatunga's period was to get out of the immediate crisis. That was COVID. How do we get out? How do we open the country? How do we welcome tourists once again? Because that if we don't do that, then everything else is of no use. Just keeping the industry just alive with no hope in the future. That was not. So the focus of the minister at that time was, let's get the country open. Let's welcome tourists. Let the people get their jobs back. All of that. So that happened to a certain extent. From January 2021, December 2020 to January 21, we were able to slowly but surely, get some of the real strict restrictions relaxed a bit and get people coming once again. So that happened.
But you spoke earlier about the authorities being or the industry being silent when there were issues.
Yes.
Do you feel that the protests that we saw, yes, they brought attention on some of these key issues, but they also added further to the crisis that Sri Lanka was facing?
Probably it did. I mean, because we were in a crisis, and then that crisis, went international with the protests. I think that's probably happened, and then that is sadly, impacted on tourism. But I think I have to say, country must come first. Mm-hmm. As a Sri Lankan, as a citizen of this country who loves this country has to come first. So if there was a need for a change and a sector had to sacrifice a bit, it's
a big sacrifice.
Yeah, it's quite a big sacrifice, right? But still, you think of the farmers, right? If there is no water, farmers will lose out. If there is too much water, also the farmers will lose out. So therefore, we can't always be expecting, perfect situation all the time. We also must learn to swim. If you are a swimmer, you must be able to swim in calm waters and rough waters as well. Right now, we are swimming in rough waters, and we must learn to survive.
But do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Definitely. I always see light at the end of the tunnel because that's my nature as well. I can't see any darkness anytime. That's because of my faith in God. My, that's inbuilt in me. I can't think otherwise. But be that as it may, there is now a necessity for all Sri Lankans to get out of this balance of payments crisis we are in, right? And in order to do that, we have to earn more foreign exchange. Obviously, tourism is one of those sectors that can bring foreign currency into the country. And I appeal, given this opportunity, that everyone who's in tourism must bring their money into this country, right? Never keep 5 cents outside, because it's our responsibility. Then the other is we have to also learn to serve our customers with Sri Lankan products, Sri Lankan food, not be hell-bent on serving anything that is foreign. Believe me, no tourist comes for 2 weeks to this country to eat oranges, apples, grapes. No one comes to eat salmon from Norway or Scotland or Alaska, right? They are coming to eat tropical fruit, tropical seafood and all of that. So therefore, we must have confidence now to serve our foreign customers with Sri Lankan fusion food. That is an experience in itself. So we have to have that confidence. So we save, foreign currency as well. While we earn, we must learn to save. If we have an opportunity to use public transportation, we must learn to do that. Because, $600 million is what we pay a month for petrol and diesel. And that money has to be used for, the services, the power we get, energy we get, right? So therefore, we have to be responsible to get out of this situation. No politician can get us out of this situation, right? They'll always play games and they'll keep us entertained. Watching news is an entertainment in some ways. It depresses me, so I don't watch. But for some people, it is entertainment because they are howling at each other, right? But what are they doing? They're fooling us,
Yeah.
right? So we have a responsibility, and tourism definitely, as I said earlier, it's a low-hanging fruit. If there with more stability coming in, with more petrol, diesel coming into the country, if they can have a responsible way of traveling within the country, I think the tourism will kick off from August onwards.
But the government is also saying that that fuel might not, that they might not have sufficient fuel for the next 12 months. Would tourists come in, looking at our public transport,
Yes.
the infrastructure in
Yeah.
place, would tourists be satisfied with using what we have?
Well, for them, it's an experience, right? If they are expecting the same comfort of
But
what
then see, you look at the travel advisories,
Right.
Some of them say, be mindful when going in our buses. They talk about the negatives, harassment, all that is there as
That
well.
is
So then,
Yeah. So that's true. That sadly it happens, right? So there has to be an educational process, right? If we want tourism, if we want to welcome them, don't harass them. Don't go to touch them. Don't go to beg from them. Don't go to rob them. Whatever. Welcome them and make sure that there is more opportunity for people to travel. I mean, the train network, right? Even though there are lots of improvements needed, but still for all, you can get from A to B very comfortably in a train, right? And you can book in advance, 14 days in advance, you can book a train ticket and then you can get an air-conditioned cabin at a very, very, very reasonable price. Don't forget, the foreigners think in dollars, we think in rupees, right? For them, 2,000 rupees is now $6, right? So for them, that's nothing, that's peanuts. To go to Kandy is 1,300 rupees in the intercity, in the air-conditioned seat. That's nothing. So we have to encourage that. Come in, enjoy our country, enjoy the facilities the way Sri Lankans offer it at the moment. We can't promise more than that at the moment. We can't promise the comforts that they'll get in Japan or in Europe in a train. That's a long way off. I don't think you and I will see that happen during our lifetimes, right? That's a different story. That's the commitment those countries had after the Second World War, and that's why they are in that place. We had a different style. We just went on, happy-go-lucky, island mentality, doesn't come what may, and believing in this is our karma or something like that, and we went on. So now we are paying a price. So we, the Sri Lankan citizens, must come together and get this out of there. And tourism, I think, will play a big role, huge role in getting us out. So that's the light I see.
Is the local tourism industry a sector that has been neglected over the past maybe years before 2019?
Some companies did. Now for Jetwing, 25%. That's the number one customer for us. Even in 2018, which was probably the best ever year we had in tourism, 25% of our overall business to Jetwing was from Sri Lankans. So for us, Sri Lankan, I'm not saying it because now we need the Sri Lankan custom badly, but even before, we recognize that, Sri Lankan customers are very, very important, and we went out, we always had rooms available for Sri Lankan customers, even during the peak months, right? So 25% of our business as one single source was Sri Lankan market. Some who didn't look after them then sometimes suffer as well when situations like this happens.
So finally, I must ask you this. Do you have faith in the current administration? Because, people say, yes, the new president may deliver. People say he may not. You might see another political game.
Yes, I have no political interest, but I don't have too much faith in anybody. I think we must take that faith out of the few people who are in parliament and get that faith into ourselves, right? There are 22 million people here. That 22 million people must have faith in themselves and in our country and build it. Expecting one or two people to build this country, that has been enough. You can't blame the current president or the former president or whoever it is, because we expect them to deliver. They cannot. They simply cannot. We the people must deliver and make sure they also play accordingly, not entertain
supportive
us
role,
all
I
the time.
suppose.
We have to, yeah, because it's they represent us. They represent us, right? So therefore, let's hope and pray that there'll be political stability because we need political stability for the economy to recover, because we can't be changing people every month. All of that I hope will not happen, right? Because whoever it is who's there now, hopefully will focus on getting a whatever all party government or whatever in place properly, without any other hidden agendas in it, and then go forward. That's all we have to do. And the people must also deliver. People must not sit back now and say, "Ayyo, ye mahatya dendone petrol, dendone diesel, dendone," and that's not should be what we must be demanding. We have to work hard, earn foreign exchange if possible. And also the other is that the remittances are not coming in through the banking network, right? So this country, don't forget, also has given us an education. This country has given us a free medical service, right? That has been provided. And now when you go overseas, you have to also be a little bit more patriotic and send that money through the banking system, because that will be utilized to pay for the the energy that we need, the diesel, petrol, and the gas that we need. So it has to be a combination of both. Politicians working with the public, and the public also working with the politicians. We have to work together.
You have set up a number of hotels around the country. Did you foresee something like this happening, this sort of crisis, ever?
Never. I feel very sad and embarrassed that this has happened to our country. It is the most, I have no words to describe it. I can't believe that we are in this situation. To such a beautiful country. I have traveled to maybe 100 countries in the world. I can't think of a better country than this to live.
Will this stop your expansion process?
To a certain extent, sadly, yes, because we are just barely surviving at the moment. Our priority at the moment is to look after the 3,200 people who are directly working with us, and so many others who supply food and other items to us. They are seriously dependent on us. Then we have to finally service the banks. We cannot forget the banks at this point in time. They have helped us as well to expand. They have lent money to us. We have to pay that back. So I can't think of doing new hotels until we look after those who have looked after us. After that, hopefully in 3 to 5 years' time, if things settle down and then we are back on the road again properly, of course, then we will add new experiences, new things, all of that for sure.
Right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us on the program, Mr. Cooray. And that's all the time we have for you for this week on Fire. Till next time, have a safe day.